Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I'm your host Andrew. Joining me tonight is Joe. How you holding up, bud?
I'm holding up, man. I'm holding up.
I absolutely feel that, man. It's been a very interesting couple of weeks in baseball. We finally have some CBA news, and that's going to be the big thing we'll talk about tonight. Unfortunately, Jason once again is still having computer issues, so we won't have him on tonight. He sent us thoughts along, and I'll take care of down on the farm for him when we get there. But hey, we got past the first major holiday of the summer. We have hit June 1st, and baseball is rolling, and I'm just happy Pennsylvania's decided not to spike back into 95 plus with humidity around 108% like it normally does at this time of year.
Yeah, I'll take this cooler weather for now.
All right, buds, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a nice ice cold Yingling tonight, and it is a Phillies can, so a tribute to Jason and Philly fans in our audience. But yeah, can't go wrong with it. It's one of the few beers I actually like. So
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with Yingling. It's a great lager. It really is. And pro tip, if you're buying Yingling outside of the state of Pennsylvania, look at where you are, and when you're about to buy Yingling, check which brewery made it. If you're farther south, it was brewed down in the Florida brewery, and it's going to taste like garbage. Make sure you only buy the Yingling that was brewed and up here in Pennsylvania, because the water quality between Pennsylvania and Florida is drastically different, and it makes a huge difference in the taste of the beer. One time when I was down in Tennessee, I had a Yingling, did not taste right. Looked at the can, yep, it was from the Florida one. It was from the Florida plant, and yeah. So, speaking from experience, make sure you only drink the Pennsylvania brewed Yingling, which is all you should be doing anyway. It's Pennsylvania's oldest brewer, or it's America's oldest brewery, actually. All right, for me tonight, I'm going to stay in the state as well. I went with New Trail, as anybody who watches the show with any regularity knows. I love their beer. Went with a sour tonight, the Blueberry Crumble Sour. Honestly, solid sour. And as always, they have great can art. One of my favorite companies for can art. All right, so let's roll into it, Joe. The lines have been drawn in this. The initial lines have now been drawn in the sand between the owners and the MLBPA, and as suspected, the two sides are not particularly close. We knew this was going to happen. CBA negotiations typically start pretty far apart, and then will get closer as more time passes and you get closer to losing games. Because right now, neither side is going to be willing to do a 1-year extension on the current CBA to give more time for negotiations. That's never happened in baseball before, and I don't see that happening now. Some pretty key differences between the two proposals here. On the MLBPA side, they want to increase the luxury tax. They want to increase the starting salary. They want to have more money available for arbitration. MLB, they want a hard cap and a hard floor. And I really don't like. I love the floor. I don't love the cap. And I don't love the difference between the top and the bottom. The cap was going to be 245.3 million, the floor of 171.2. The league also wanted to bring the revenue back to the 50-50 split. I don't remember what it's at right now, Joe, but I know it's not there right now. One thing the owners did put out that I thought was interesting is that they want to take all of the television revenue, throw it into one pot, and then have it divided equally among all of the teams. If I'm a large market team, I hate that idea, because just because my TV revenue is bigger, why should other teams in the smaller markets take advantage of that when they already get other revenue help from MLB from the shared revenue that they already have. Also, I have to say, as a part owner of the Braves, although I get no vote whatsoever in any of these negotiations because I'm not that much of an owner, I've got one damn share. Atlanta took a chance on launching their own network, and I don't think Atlanta should have to kick that money into the pot personally, because they were willing to say, no, we're going to go on our own and see what we can do, and sink or swim. They're either going to make a boatload of money on it, or they're going to get absolutely crushed and show that they weren't ready to do something like that. But that's a very, very unique Atlanta only issue. So I'm not real, I won't dredge that around too much. Were you at all surprised, Joe, by the lines that each side drew in the sand with where they're going to start their negotiation points at?
Not particularly. I mean, I think the floor is honestly a fair number.
Yeah.
I wasn't disappointed with that. That was actually better than I thought it would be. As far as the floor is concerned, the cap is just a non-starter, and we know it's a non-starter.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a matter of trying to control money, I guess you could say, or the top amount of dollars. I mean, we've seen that the payroll doesn't matter because, I mean, look at the way the season has started for the Mets. Have one of the second highest payroll and be in a position that they're in. So a lot of emphasis has been placed on payroll, especially with the way that the Dodgers have been spending money. But it doesn't always bear out. You just can't control the rest of it, which I feel like a cap is trying to control a lot of that stuff. And it's like, well, I mean, look where the A's are, look where the Nats are, look where the Pirates are at. Like, the teams that aren't spending are still in good shape. I know it's the 1st of June, but like, your top payroll amount really doesn't influence competition. Now, I feel like for me, I think the better place to start, and I don't know if the MLBPA will even consider this as an alternative, but maybe there's a deferral cap instead of a salary cap, where only this percentage of your payroll can be deferred money.
One thing that absolutely needs to be hammered out, beyond, no matter which way the negotiations end up going, they need to do something about deferred money. I don't mind deferred money being able to be used as a tool to open up immediate payroll to help improve the team. You shouldn't be able to bypass the CBA or what the union called for was a CIT, competitive integrity tax. Basically, it's going to complement the CBT, penalizes the high spending teams, would require teams not spending at least half of the base of the CBT threshold to forfeit some of their revenue sharing dollars. So here's the problem. Nobody is likely going to bring up deferred money until very, very late, because the players might gripe about the players and owners might gripe about how the Dodgers have done everything they can to bypass the luxury tax with how they defer money. But at the same time, it's not going to stop anybody that wants to continue to do that. It's not going to stop anybody from doing it. And the players don't really want deferred money to go away, because that's guaranteed money that the players aren't going to lose. And anytime a team says, hey, if can we defer some of this money to open up more immediate payroll, they can usually negotiate like an interest rate on top of that, like Bobby Bonilla did. I mean, Bobby Bonilla has made more money off his interest than he ever did in that base contract. I mean, that was absolutely shrewd, brilliant maneuvering by him. And although we give the Mets a lot of crap, I do love that Steve Cohen has decided to embrace Bobby Bonilla instead of, look at it as an outcast thing, like, ownership has done since the Wilpots. So deferred money needs to be addressed. That's not going to be addressed until I think close to the end. If we're being completely honest, I think the teams and the players and the owners, excuse me, are probably going to take a very long time before they decide to delve into. Even though, frankly, I think it's something that they need to delve into sooner rather than later. But
Well,
we'll
and
see.
it could be something too where it's not necessarily a cap on how much you can defer. It's about how much deferred money doesn't count towards the CIT or CBT or whatever.
Right.
To try to rein some of that in. I mean, the bottom line with some of this stuff is that every team can do deferred money, they just choose not to. So, how much of it is choosing not to do it versus, it's the same thing argument we had 20 years ago with the Yankees when we were kids, where it was like they spend money. Well, everybody else can spend money too, they just don't. So at the end of the day, the deferral money and salary cap, to me, they're almost like a non-starter too, because it's just like who am I to say that so and so is not worth whatever this team wants to pay them? I mean, I may think it's stupid, I might think it's crazy, but who am I to say that they're not worth whatever that team wants to pay them? And some of that stuff, and other teams can do, some of these things if they wanted to. I think the floor is a definite thing that has to come out of this new deal.
Yes.
We can't have teams who have no incentive to improve the product on the field. We just can't have that. I mean, you had the A's. I think we've talked about this a bunch, but the A's had the same payroll that they had 30 years ago last year, I think it was. And it was just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. It's absolutely wild to me to look at that and to think about how much that number has changed, because that number 30 years ago versus that number today, that's wildly different in how much you can get out of that. It's and I mean, a lot, payroll escalations and salary escalations and all of that. I get all of that, but it's pretty wild to think about just that. Bryce Harper, who is one of the lead, he's I don't know what his exact position is in the MLBPA, but he's high up there. I believe he's one of their higher level negotiators. He had some very good thoughts. I think it was yesterday in an interview. He said, quote, "We're coming from two different areas, but we both have to understand our game is in a great position right now to succeed, and we can't lose that momentum. We can't lose that momentum as players. We can't lose that momentum as owners. So wherever we're at, whatever they're coming with, whatever we're coming with, you have to come to an agreement before any of that happens, because there's other things to do. It's not like 94 where there was nothing else to do. It's not just, oh, baseball's here. There's a lot of other things to do than just watch baseball." And Harper brings up a great point, and I hope it's something that both sides do keep in mind as negotiations go on, because, baseball's not the biggest show in the game anymore. Football, both college and NFL, have flown past baseball. The NBA is huge. And there's a lot more options on all these various streaming services. You can see more Premier League soccer than you ever could. You can see soccer of all sorts of leagues now. There's a lot more women's leagues that have gained a lot of traction. The WNBA, for instance, the National Women's Soccer League, lacrosse is starting to pick up. And ESPN, the behemoth that it is, they have streaming options for an insane number of sports. You want to watch some rugby? ESPN's got streams for you. You want to watch wrestling, like collegiate wrestling, or the Olympic style wrestling. I'm not talking about WWE or anything like that. UFC.
I mean, to be fair, ESPN does carry the premium live events for the WWE now, so
that's true. Yeah, that's true. But Harper's right. Baseball is not the leading ticket anymore. It's gained a lot of popularity back. I don't want to take anything away from that. He's right. But baseball is not it's not the biggest show on television anymore. And honestly, a long lockout might very well cripple the sport, and I don't see another McGuire Sosa home run chase to necessarily bring things back if it turns into a long drawn out lockout.
Yeah, I mean, this is as popular as the sport has been probably since before the last one,
Yeah.
the last strike. So, like, to me, Harper's right there. You can't waste the capital and the game that you've grown back since then. You're not going to be able to feign outrage at steroids again like you did 20 years ago.
Correct.
You're just not going to be able to do that. So at the same it just feels like to me, they've done so much to expand the game. The biggest problem they have, and this would be for me if I were a player, this is a sticking point. Like, you're limiting exposure by having blackouts. It's just dumb. There is no reason that I shouldn't be able to watch the Cubs and the Pirates because the TV subscription I have doesn't have the Pittsburgh channel. That's just asinine.
It's crazy too. Even when it's the MLB TV free game of the day, the blackouts still apply.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to yourself? That's so stupid.
Yeah, I really feel like they need to, like I said, they've built so much goodwill with Field of Dreams game, the Negro League game, and all that other stuff that they've done over the last 5-10 years. Like, the WBC, everything is. I may disagree with the WBC formatting and timing and all that, but it's done a lot to grow the sport, and
especially internationally.
Yeah, and so, like, you can't forfeit the goodwill you've developed because I just don't see how they can bounce back as easily as they did the first time.
Agreed. And the crazy thing is in some things they're not that far off. So the league's hard floor, they had it set at 171.2 million. MLBPA's proposal, so the CBT base was going to be half of the threshold. So they had the threshold at 300. So the base was at 150 million. So that's only like 20 million less than the floor that the league proposed. So it's not, other than the issue of luxury tax versus hard cap, the two sides are not as far apart as we were initially worried about them being.
Well, and I feel like they, since it's that close, I didn't realize how close that number was. That just seems to me like an easy concession by the players to be like, okay, cool, we're good with that. It shows some goodwill to the owners, and maybe it softens some of those other things that they're trying to force.
Yeah, it's what it's going to turn into is what's going to be the thing that one side or the other says absolutely not. Where are they going to dig? Where is each side going to dig their heels in and not move on? With the players, it's likely going to be that hard cap. It's consistently been the hard cap since the 70s. And the last time the owners tried that big push was 1994. And we saw what happened there. The players dug in and were willing to have a World Series canceled, another season delayed. I don't know that look, the owners and the players both know the damage that was done to the sport when that happened. So I would hope both sides are, as things get later and later and later, are not going to get to the point of, okay, hard lockout, we're done, and nobody's going to talk. Because that's what frustrated the three of us the last time we had the CBA negotiations, where there was a brief lockout and spring training was delayed, was how many days went in between proposals. Because I'm sorry, if there's a lockout, everybody should be meeting every day to get things resolved. And that definitely did not happen the last time, a couple of years ago.
And I will say this: I feel like the fact that we have a proposal and a counter 6 months out is a good sign of where things are going.
Yes.
I do think that's important. I think, it's definitely better than it was the last time, and how much you're willing to give up is a little, you know, I can handle or be comfortable with like maybe a 1 week delay in spring training at the beginning of the year.
Right.
But if we go 3 weeks, like that's just stupid.
Yeah. And that'll really screw up getting the pitchers stretched out in time for the regular season. And we don't want to do that.
Right. I mean, we don't want to have a shortened spring training lead to, a mass year of Tommy Johns or whatever, because we couldn't agree on basic stuff.
Right. The union also had some changes to the revenue sharing through the local TV money. The union wants every team to kick $50 million in, and then 2/3 of whatever remains going to a shared pool that would be distributed equally. They also proposed doubling the minimum salary to $1.5 million with 10% annual raises. So remember that's pre-arbitration players. And an expansion of the bonus pool for pre-arbitration players from $50 million to $180 million. But guys, you're not going to get 3+ times an expansion of the pre-arbitration pool. I think that's probably one of the first. I think they're going to be able to get a little more out of that than $50 million. They're not getting $180 million out of that. That's again, these are
almost
early.
have to.
You shoot for the stars early, knowing that you're going to be coming back down. You don't want to go low because then you're going to end up going even lower. So I get what they're doing there.
Right. I'm not, like I said, the fact that there's been enough communication just in the last week is certainly a much better start than last time. And
yeah, it's definitely not as vitriolic as it was last time.
Yeah, I would agree with that so far. I mean, look, the owners are making money hand over fist. So the owners are making money hand over fist. The players are making really good money too. Like, nobody wants to lose that.
Right. So Manfred was on the Pat McAfee show last week, and he said the gap between the top and bottom payrolls is $446 million. So is it true? Yes and no, because again, details and interpretation are everything, and that's where you're going to see a lot of the rhetoric fly back and forth in these negotiations. So last year, did the Dodgers spend $446 million more in players than the Marlins did? Yes. Did the Dodgers players receive $446 million more in salaries? No, they didn't. MLB was using figures of a combination of what the Dodgers paid plus their penalties for exceeding the luxury tax threshold, because the Dodgers tax bill was more than the Marlins payroll as well. So payroll for the Dodgers last year was $346, and the luxury tax was $169. Nice. So keep in mind that $169 million, that money didn't go to the players.
Right.
So some of that money goes towards player benefits, but the other half is redistributed by the commissioner's office to revenue sharing recipients. So yeah. So
it's a payroll expense, but it's not to the players directly.
Right. Money, that the luxury tax money the penalty money doesn't get to the players. That goes right back to the owners. Well, not all the owners, obviously. Right. But so,
I'm just saying, as far as their number discussion, it's a payroll line item when they budget, but it's not to the players.
Exactly. So every other big sport in North America uses a hard cap system. Now, baseball is the only one that doesn't. we've talked about this extensively. I'm not in favor of a hard cap. I haven't been the whole time. I want to see a floor, and I want to, I want to see a floor implemented first with the current system and see what happens before you're going to get me to be all in on jumping in on a hard cap. Do you think is that still kind of where you're at, Joe, or do you think the disparity has gotten to the point where a hard cap needs to be considered, albeit it would need to be more, it needs to be more spread out than it is right now, and the top would need to go up because I think I saw 8 or 9 clubs would need to reduce payroll pretty heavily, and I think 8 to 10 clubs would need to increase payroll to get to the hard floor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm look, the hard floor has to be there. That's just a product of, you are, the lack of incentive to put a quality product on the field needs to be taken away. It just does. As far as the cap goes, I don't know. I have a hard time with this one. I do understand the reason for doing it. I feel like you could. I mean, I wonder if it's more important to do that on. I mean, the hard cap is. Correct me if I'm misunderstanding this. Is on the team's overall payroll.
Yes. So the hard cap, it's just like the NFL. You can't have payroll past this point. Once you hit that, you can't add payroll on top of that. You have to cut players, whatever, renegotiate contracts to extend money forward. You know how so many NFL players get those bogus extensions with void years on them. You're going to see that happen. I know. So I know NBA. It's not. I know the NBA doesn't have, like, they have a hard cap, but the cap can be exceeded with, like, if you have the bird rights for a player, you can exceed the cap. I know homegrown players can get the supermax deals, and I think that calculates differently on their cap is so damn complicated. You need to have like 6 PhDs in finance to figure out the NBA's salary cap and all that.
Is it possible that the deferral cap could be a good replacement for that?
Now, a cap on deferrals, I would not be opposed to. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
That feels to me like where this conversation should try to steer toward, and you could even do it where it's a deferral cap on contracts going forward as opposed to retroactive.
You would have to, because the Dodgers, the Dodgers would never agree to anything that would be retroactive on any kind of a deferral cap, because truthfully, I don't know what they would be able to do.
I mean, are we thinking a max deferral cap per player or a deferral cap for the team?
I think you would have to do. So it depends. If you're going to do a hard money amount, I think you do it per team. If you're going to do percentage wise, I think you can do it per player. But
so those are two of the thoughts I have as far as how to maybe structure that. But that seems to me like the hard floor. The hard floor is a win for the players.
It's a win for everybody.
It's for sure it's a win for the players.
Yeah,
with the two sides here. I mean, obviously the fans benefit because the owners are spending more money. But the players are going to benefit by having a hard floor. It seems to me as if the players might need to cede something in order for the other side to be tenable. So
yeah, and both sides are going to have to make concessions. That's how these negotiations always go. We know this because anytime the owners try and play real hardball and it's my way or the highway, one, it makes the next negotiations worse. As we've seen with the NFL and their number of lockouts they've had in recent years, where the NFL has tried to do that. And yeah, it's not a good, I think it's reassuring that the players and the owners are somewhat close at this point. Even if fundamentally there are huge chasms that have to be crossed, the numbers are not hatefully far off. So they're well, you know what? Yeah, pun intended. They're in the ballpark. It's a big ass ballpark, but they're in the ballpark. So there's good and bad from each proposal. And there's a lot of questions that need to be answered that like both proposals were deliberately vague. Like for instance, MLB's proposal. How are we going to define baseball related revenue? How would the increases to the cap and floor be determined? How would they handle the guaranteed contracts that already put teams over the cap or that are pushing up against it? There's a lot of questions because yes, both proposals were, as expected, going to be vague. At least they're talking. We didn't get the reaction we have seen sometimes across all leagues. This is not just baseball, but we've seen the reaction from, I mean, most recently when the WNBA was negotiating, where the owners put forth a proposal that the players deemed so bad, they said, "Yeah, come back to us in 2 weeks with something else. We're not even going to look at this. This is so bad." So we're not at that point, thankfully. I still think Bryce Harper is going to tell Manfred to get the hell out of the clubhouse if Manfred comes into the Phillies clubhouse and tries to spew crap, as he did last year. Although I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, he didn't say get the hell out of our clubhouse. I think he amped that up a little bit, knowing Bryce Harper. But yeah, we have a starting point. We have negotiations that are not hateful right now. So it's June 1st. Let's try to remain positive for now, because there's a lot of stuff we don't know. Like, will player contracts remain fully guaranteed? We don't know that. Is that something the players might be willing to give up? I doubt it. Baseball is the only league in North American major sports that has fully guaranteed contracts. In the NFL, there have only been a couple players who have been able to negotiate that, and they're usually quarterbacks. There's a lot of questions we're going to have. We're slowly starting to get, some semblance of answers. We have our points, and, Joe, at this point, we just need to keep an eye on things and see where they trend. And like I said earlier, I think we can be, as fans, we can be slightly more reassured that they're not starting as far apart as things looked before the season started. So, all right. Anything else you wanted to bring up from all of that?
Nope. I think we've pretty much covered it.
All right. Good, because that's not my area of expertise, and I am okay being done with it. I know I'm terrible. All right, Joe. Let's go. Let's go around the league, see what's going on here. We'll start American League first. The American League East looked it looked pretty dead outside the Rays and the Yankees, and well, the bottom half isn't improving. John Henry, actually, the owner of the Red Sox, actually did come out and say that at a charity event that he's genuinely worried about the direction of the team right now. And understandably so. They dumped a lot of money in that team, and this team sucks right now. They're 25-33. They're 12 games behind the Rays. And super concerningly, the Red Sox can't play at home this year. They're 9-19 at home, and yet they're, oddly enough, they're over 500 on the road, 16-14. The Blue Jays are starting to come out of hibernation. The Orioles are badly injured, but they're not out of the wild card, and they're starting to come out. Seem like they're slowly starting to come out of hibernation too. They're 7-3 in their last 10. The Blue Jays will have a test this week. They've got a 3-game set in Atlanta. So, we'll see what the Blue Jays have. But, the AL East, we thought that was going to be the hardest division or one of the hardest divisions in the preseason. Traditionally, it has been the last couple of years. It has not showed that so far. But, are you liking the trends that you're seeing with the Blue Jays and the Orioles that they might be starting to come out of their slumber? Or do you think this is just a little blip and things are going to probably continue largely the same way they were in, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks from now?
Well, I mean, overall, that division, I think, John Henry might be concerned. Well, a lot of people are concerned about John Henry's leadership. So
that's
I think, you have, they had Bregman. They lost Bregman last offseason. They probably had an opportunity or two to get someone not necessarily Bregman's caliber, but of at least some MLB experience, and they chose not to do that, which kind of hurt them a bit. They make a lot of weird trade decisions outside of the Garrett Crochet trade about a year or so ago. That everything else has kind of been a little weird. They've had some guys get hurt. The Blue Jays have been really decimated by injury, and that's why this season has started so poorly for them. And the Orioles, I think it's just they peaked way too early, and they've been bit by every bug possible. Last year they couldn't hit. This year their pitching's not great. It's just kind of
injured.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the Orioles to me are the ones that, and the Blue Jays, they obviously both have the potential to turn this around. If I was betting on one or the other, it would be the Blue Jays over the Orioles. But
agreed.
It's just been a little bit hard to believe that it's been this one-sided so early. With the Rays coming out of nowhere, and being in first place the way they are, because none of us had them finishing or in first place for any considerable part of the season when we did the preview. I know that.
That's very correct.
so that's the thing that's really interesting. A really neat George Springer stat, and I don't remember exactly what his number is, but it's leadoff home runs, and he is second behind Ricky Henderson all time already in his career. It's somewhere in the low, like the mid to low 50s that he has.
65.
65. That's what it was.
65 career. Ricky has 81.
Yeah. But to be even that close is just crazy to me. And I know Schwarber's like 52 or something like that.
So number 1, Ricky at 81. Number 2, George at 65. Number 3, Alfonso Soriano at 54. Number 4, Craig Biggio at 53. Number 5, Mookie Betts at 52. Number 6, Ian Kinsler at 48. Number 7, Curtis Granderson at 47. Tied for 8 at 46, you've got Jimmy Rollins and Kyle Schwarber. Oh, that's funny, 2 Phillies guys. And then
it was so much higher than that. I thought I heard it was higher than that.
Well, it's how much are they screwing with the Philadelphia lineup is what you have to ask for that. And then number 10, one of my favorite non-Cal Ripken Orioles of all time, Brady Anderson with 44.
Yeah, that it's just amazing to me how productive Springer has been in the leadoff spot.
Yeah, it's wild. Acuna's not that far off. He's up to 39 now. Good for him. Because he, for the longest time he wasn't leadoff for the first couple of years he was playing. So, good for him catching up on that. Looking at the wild card for the American League right now, because this is crazy how tight things are. As bad as the Red Sox have been, they are only 3 games out. The worst team in the American League right now is the Tigers, and they're only 7 games out of the wild card. I say only, but if you're looking at just 3 games or less, Between the Yankees lead the wild card 7.5 up. The White Sox are 3.5 up, and then the Blue Jays are the last spot. The Athletics and Rangers are a half a game behind. The Orioles are just one game behind. The Twins 2. The Astros 2.5. Oh God, to hell with that. And then the Red Sox at 3 games back. So, in the league that's been generally speaking pretty damn bad this year, especially compared to how much better the National League has been. There's going to be, it's going to make a really interesting buy sell situation in a month and a half, because so many of those American League teams are going to be like, we might truly only be one player away from being able to make that run at the wild card. So, we'll see. For the record, Joe, of the two teams, I agree with you. I think the Blue Jays are more likely to get hot and stay hot than the Orioles are to fight their way back into that division fight. All right, that's what I have for the East. What do you have for the Central today, Joe?
Yeah, so we talked about the Tigers, and I'll start with them. They have 9 losses this year, giving up 3 runs or fewer. They've lost 21 of 25. Which is just mind-boggling to me, given how much potential we thought they had at the beginning of the year. But the White Sox, truly the best team in Chicago on June 1st. Did anybody think I was going to say that tonight?
Nope, I didn't.
Now, they both had 32 wins. The Cubs have 28 losses to 27 for the White Sox. So that win percentage is 542 to 533.
Mm-hmm.
Not what I expected on June 1st. Hence the Indiana jersey, because that's the one thing I know I can count on right now.
Signatis, baby. Bring in the Signatis.
Indiana is national champions, and you can't take that away from me, but the Cubs are crazy right now. The White Sox are 11-3 against the AL Central this year, and they've had 11 teams debut so far this year. 11 players debut for them this year, which is just crazy at this point of the year to have the success they're having with that number. It's just insane to watch. It's great to see. The city loves it. The fans are, really starting to fill back in a little bit there, which is great. And since May 4th, the Tigers are 4-20, and the White Sox are 15-9. And May 4th is significant because I think that's when Skubal went on the IL. It's around that time. So,
Joe, I just had a really interesting thought. Pope Leo his papacy began last May.
It did.
He's a White Sox fan.
He is.
Is there some freaking divine intervention going on that is raising the White Sox back from the dead?
I don't know if I would go that far yet. I do think, they had a lot of young talent. They got a lot of good talent back in the Crochet deal a few years ago. They had some shades of brilliance last year from certain guys. Obviously, Murakami has been a huge shot in the arm for them.
Beast.
So that's been huge. Right place, right time. I don't know if I'm willing to go divine intervention just yet, but it is really quite interesting to see just how they've been able to do what they've been able to do this year. And one last thing on Skubal for you. He threw 64 pitches in a simulated game today, 45 of them for strikes. 10 of those were whiffs as he worked through a mini lineup. The thought is that he might do a AAA rehab start sometime this weekend and then join the club next week, which is a masterful turnaround for what he went through with the surgery and basically shut down and start over. Is quite wild.
every team is going to be closely watching this because he was the pioneer of a brand new procedure. And down the road, if this continues to be successful, they may rename it the Scooble procedure. Tommy John got the Tommy John named after him. This might be named after Tariq Scooble before it's all said and done. And his recovery has been nothing short of remarkable. Honestly, I really truly do hope it continues to go well. Not only because watching the Tigers dangle a good Scooble out there in the trade market, if they continue to play poorly, is just it's gonna, the package he should be able to get back, even though he's still in arbitration. The package he's going to bring back is going to be absolutely nuts. And you don't see that quality of a pitcher become available every day. Oh no, this was his last arbitration year, so it's going to be a rental unless they can get an extension signed after the trade kind of thing. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And he's so much fun to watch. And when he is on, it's watching modern art. So I really hope the procedure does end up being successful and we see him back in a couple weeks. That's the fact that he's throwing that well in simulated games already is honestly kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
All right, moving it on to the NL West, or excuse me, the AL West. We're not in the NL yet, Andrew. We were just talking the other week about, is anybody actually going to try and win the AL West? The Athletics were in the lead for the longest time. The Mariners have finally woken from I don't know why Seattle hasn't figured out yet that you can save yourself about 13 cases of Tums for your ownership, management, leadership positions by actually playing baseball during the months of April and May. Because
let's not forget about the fans there too.
Yeah, well, but then I'd have to increase that number by a couple hundred at least. Because the Mariners have finally decided to play baseball. They've won 8 straight. They are now sitting 2.5 games apart from the Athletics and the Rangers, who have both dipped below 500 down to 475. Again, neither of those teams is out by any small stretch of the imagination. Although I feel like the wheels are coming off or have started to come off the Athletics. It kind of feels like they may have already peaked and are just going to kind of coast back down as the rest of the season goes. Although I would not be upset if I'm wrong about that, but watching their run differential tank down to negative 34 does not inspire me with a lot of confidence. No Cal Raleigh, no problem. The rest of the Mariners bats have finally decided, oh yeah, we're allowed to hit the ball. J-Rod is finally not an absolute anchor in that lineup as he was earlier this year, along with literally everybody else. So the Mariners, and I'm happy for Dave, truly, because he was very, very, very big on his M's at the start of the season, and while they still could and should probably hold on and win this division, they're not going to be a high 90s winning team, that's for damn sure. But like I said, it's good to see the Mariners finally starting to play more up to their potential. They're starting to feast on their own division, which I kind of expected would happen. They're 14-9 against the West. They haven't played the East hardly at all. They've played one series. So we'll see if that continues to hold. The one number that Oakland has, Sacramento has, sorry, old habits die hard. In one-run games, the Athletics are doing extremely well this season. They're 10-7, and they're 4-2 in extras. So, if the Athletics bats can wake back up and the pitching get a little bit better, good things could still happen for the Athletics. So, we'll have to see. But for our Mariners fan base that do follow us, Dave leading that charge. You guys are finally starting to play good baseball. Glad to have you back at the top of your division. All right, Joe, let's move it into the National League. What do you got on the East tonight, bud?
Yeah, I mean the first thing that's important to think about here is before I do the homerish Phillies discussion is the Nationals. They're a game back of the wild card of the last wild card spot, which again is a spot that nobody thought they'd be in at this point. At least I don't think they did. But their home away split is quite interesting. They're 12-17 at home and 19-12 away from home. Interesting offensive number for you. They're second only behind the Braves in RBIs as a team at 309. The Braves are at 310.
Mm-hmm.
The Nationals have 219 walks as a team, which is, in a decent spot. It's really quite interesting to see. This other number that really jumps out to me offensively is 113 doubles.
Damn, that's a lot of doubles.
That's quite impressive. So they really have done everything they can to compete in this division and to make it a bit of a game as far as the wild card goes, at least for now. And really kind of put you, which when they got rid of Gore, when they traded Gore in the offseason, you were kind of like, okay, my hopes for you kind of went a little bit lower, just based on how talented Gore is. But you're almost in a position now where a early trade target maybe in CJ Abrams isn't a trade target right now. And teams who are looking for infield help are going to have to go elsewhere. Like that's the kind of run that they're on to start this point of the year. To get to this point of the year, that's quite impressive. And then I think the other thing I wanted to talk about with the NL East for the Phillies is the scoreless streak that's going for Christopher Sanchez, who is just he's just excellent.
Yeah.
He's really been excellent. The 44 and 2/3 inning scoreless streak so far. In May, he had 5 starts of 39 innings total, 45 strikeouts, 3 walks, and no runs. The guy is just on fire. It's really, really fun to watch. For at least for Philly fans, maybe not for you, Andrew.
He hasn't burned me yet.
Yeah. But what the other thing that's interesting too is not only have they played with an increased energy, obviously, since Mattingly became the manager, and the record reflects that. But since Zach Wheeler made his debut on April the 25th, they are 22-11 since, the second best record in the National League. And they are 6-1 when Wheeler starts. So we weren't sure exactly what we were getting with Wheeler to start the year, and they've proven out that, hey, we're actually pretty good with Wheeler back. So they've really had an interesting change of pace, similar to what they did when they went through the Girardi Topper hire hire move that really spurred them forward. So it's those are the two big things to talk about Philly wise. It's great to see them in a positive direction.
It's crazy. After Topper took over from Girardi, he was very aggressive, very analytical, and wasn't afraid to make bold moves. And then as the years went on, he started to manage more and more and more conservatively, especially in the playoffs. And it's wild to me how quickly Topper went from beloved son of Philadelphia to pariah of Philadelphia, because that really wasn't that long of a period of time. It's only a couple of years. So yeah, I'm glad I'm glad for the Phillies fans that that the new ownership new manager has been doing well. I'm glad that there's finally some, I don't know if I could say competition yet in the East, but I'm glad there's more 500 teams than just Atlanta in the East. because Atlanta hasn't had a ton of NL East play yet. They've only played 20 games so far. So, which, yeah, I know that's more than the Mets and the Phillies have played. They've somehow only played 13 games against the East so far, but it is good to see though. And again, I need teams to push Atlanta. I don't need this team tapping out in August because the division is so far gone that they look like remember the Tigers from a couple of years ago, or that was just last year, that they started to coast too soon. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And I don't think Walt Weiss would be that dumb, but at the same time, I don't want to leave anything to chance.
Can't say I blame you there.
I got an interesting one for you, Joe. I just thought about it. And it'll segue nicely to your NL Central stuff. Who had the better month, Misrowski or Sanchez? Because the two of them were nuts.
I'm gonna go Sanchez.
Sanchez, okay.
Yeah, I it's really splitting hairs, but to me, it was. Let me put it this way. I mean, I think the amount of 103 pitches that Mizorowski is throwing is just ridiculous. Number one.
Yeah.
And number two, the Brewers are a team that we were expecting this kind of performance out of Mizorowski if they were going to continue doing what they do. And maybe it's just part of me isn't able to give them a lot of credit, but truthfully, to me, it's just the nature of the dominance from Sanchez.
Yeah,
the historic streak that he's broken. For the Phillies there, like it's just such a much. It's just it really is splitting hairs, but it's to me it wins out of those two.
Yeah, I think I give Sanchez the very slightest edge for the last 30 days, but this is how close they are. So they both made 5 starts. Sanchez, 39 innings, 25 hits, no runs, 1 hit batsman, 3 walks, 45 strikeouts, a complete game shutout in there as well. That's an ERA of 0, a whip of 0.72, an average against of 0.181. Mizorowski, on the other hand, only 33 innings versus 39, but only 14 hits, 1 earned run, 1 hit batsman, 4 walks, 49 strikeouts, ERA of 0.27, whip of 0.55, average against of 0.124. Holy crap. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
and honestly, you don't have to work hard. If this is a debate, like if this is our two candidates here having a debate, you're not going to have to work hard to sway my vote one way or the other because they were both awesome. I mean, honestly, NL pitcher of the month, that had to be one of the hardest votes those voters have ever had to pick one guy. And this is one where, honestly, I say you make it a split decision because they were both incredible in the month of May. Damn. Looking overall on the year to date for the two of them, they have identical records at 6-2. Sanchez's ERA is understandably a little better at 147 versus 165. Mizorowski obviously has the home run edge at 108 versus 95. Sanchez has 3 less walks, 16 versus 19. Mizorowski's hit a lot more guys, 6-1. And Sanchez has gotten more innings in. Sanchez's average against, though, is higher, 240 versus 150. He's also allowed significantly more hits, 73 versus 37. But who are you picking to start the All-Star game? I mean, I think it should be Sanchez since it's in Philadelphia. Like, regardless of how the rest of the first half goes, I think it should be Sanchez. But are you taking Sanchez as your starter or Mizorowski at this point?
I'd still say Sanchez. It just feels like to me, Mizorowski is good. Obviously, the Philly factor contributes to that quite a bit.
Yeah,
with the starter, but I mean, it's funny too because I just saw this article since you brought up Mizorowski. Like, someone asked him, how does he feel about having a month ERA of 0.23, and he goes, I mean, that's decent.
That's decent.
Like
Oh my God. That's
Like-
funny as hell. That's decent. Okay, bud. Jesus.
I mean, 57 strikeouts in May. That's decent.
Yeah, it's decent.
And I guess in their game the other day, Jake Bowers on their team says, I'm not sure he had his best fastball. I mean, the stuff like his, not having his best stuff is better than most other guys. It's like, well,
dude,
yeah,
it's not wrong. It's not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer Strider had a decent month and had 40 strikeouts, and his numbers aren't even close to the two of them. I mean, and he went 3-1 and still had a really good month, and it pales in comparison to the two of them. It's just wild. All right. Well, anyway, so what else do you have for the NL Central?
Well, I'm gonna talk about the Cubs briefly because it's been a while. We want to look at Dansby Swanson in particular because to me, the Cubs team so far this year is one of those where half the time it's Clark Kent and half the time it's Superman, and I just wish there were more Superman than Clark Kent. It's a little crazy to follow as a fan. But the big thing is, it's like, just how good or how bad are they? Yes, they've had the 2 10-game win streaks. They've had the 10-game losing streak, which no team has done that in the first half ever. So congratulations. There's some history for you. I just, and then I started to think about those 2 10-game win streaks, and you're like, well, you had the Mets who were bad. You had the Phillies who were down. You had this team that was bad. It's like, how good are they? And with all of the injuries they've had, it's just really hard to get a read on this team. They went from first in the division to last in the division in the span of 10 days. So it's just really hard to get a read on how good this team is or bad this team is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ever the pessimist, as most people know. So when it comes to the Cubs, but I've got reasons to be that way. When they had their 10-game losing streak, obviously they broke it finally last week against the Pirates, against Bubba Chandler and Paul Skeens, 2 wins in a row. But before that, they had not won a game since the owner of the Billy Goat Tavern had died. And you're like, oh, here we go. Let's bring this shit back.
When you shared that, I was like, you've got to be kidding me, right?
I wish I was. I mean, I'm just glad that they reversed that trend over, Wednesday, Thursday, and over the weekend last week. But Dansby Swanson in particular is the big gaping issue. Since April the 24th, he has a batting average of 161. He has 1 homer, 4 doubles, 6 RBIs, 10 walks, 27 strikeouts.
That's not great.
His batting average just in the month of May is 150.
Whew.
That's not gonna do it.
That's not gonna do it, no matter how good your glove is.
The defensive part is obviously a big selling point for him, and it always has been. And I love him for his defensive ability.
Mm-hmm.
The streakiness of him as a hitter, you and I have talked about that a bunch. It's been a problem.
It's been a problem since he played in Atlanta.
But this is not streaky. This is just bad.
Yeah.
To the point where you almost have to be like, look, Nico, you're gonna play short, and Shaw, you're gonna play second. We're just gonna have to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you need to sit Dansby down for a little bit, or find some phantom injury to give you an excuse to send him on a minor league rehab assignment.
Yeah. The other thing, NL Central wise, is the year that JJ Weatherholt is out too with the Cardinals, on pace to arguably be the leader in Rookie of the Year in the National League. Right now, he already is a 2.5 F WAR as a rookie. 7 stolen bases this year. He is at the, his hitting has been exceptional. He's really has had a productive impact just about everywhere. Um, it's it's quite impressive, and so to me, it's just like, it's one of those things where I know that Zach, I'm sure, is very happy with this, because this is one of those things that you're like, they could do something like this, and they're good enough to be at second in this division, which, you know we talked about that in the central preview. Like, there's something about the Cardinal way, and this could be one of those Cardinal way years where you're just like, really?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna be honest. I still have a lot of the same questions I had 2 weeks ago when we were on last. I'm not sold yet. They haven't been great in their last 10 games. They're 3-7 overall, -10 on the differential. But again, yeah, the Cardinal way has earned lenience to look around that for a period of time.
Yeah, and I think, the you look at Jordan Walker too. I mean, maybe not as much in the last few weeks, but Jordan Walker was off to a much better start than he had been at any point
Mhm.
in his Cardinal career.
Oh yeah.
So to have that and Weatherholt and hopefully have some other guys contribute, there's a chance that they could be scary good if they keep this up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on to the NL West. It's frustrating. I shared this in our group chat. On Saturday night after the Phillies beat the Dodgers and at the time tied the series before the Dodgers came back and won the series, an LA fan online pointed out that, yeah, the Phillies beat the Dodgers on the road in LA. Yeah, Atlanta came into LA and took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. But when push comes to shove, when we get to a 7-game series, the Dodgers are going to be favored against everybody. Doesn't matter how far Atlanta ends the season ahead of LA, they're still going to be favored. And grinds my gears a little bit, not going to lie, but at the same point, they're probably right, because as much as it pisses me off, and boy does it piss me off, Davey Roberts is going to do exactly what he did last year. He's going to pitch his pitchers as minimally as possible throughout the regular season to keep them as fresh as he can for the postseason run. Because let's face it, the rest of the NL West hasn't been pushing him. San Diego's 3-7 in their last 10. They're still over 500. They're still going to get a wild card. Arizona's moved into the wild card. Good for them. The Giants are terrible. The Rockies are putrid. That's frustrating that the Dodgers have decided to essentially game the regular season. They know they'll probably still end the year either at the 2 or the 3. And honestly, I don't think the Dodgers really care if they don't get that first round bye. They'll slow play their pitchers coming back off injury, push those debuts back as far as they can, keep those arms fresher for longer. I'm looking at, Snow. I'm looking at not Yamamoto. Who else was hurt? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, it's frustrating. Because as much as it pains me to admit it, that asshole Dodgers fan is probably right.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly showed last year that they can manage pitchers out of the bullpen who don't have bullpen experience, the way they handled Roki last year and everything else. Like, it's definitely one of those things where they just have, the bullpen was their weakness last year, and they found a way to hide that weakness by having starters in the bullpen. So, it's an embarrassment of riches, to be sure.
It is. Yeah, it's frustrating. But anyway, it is what it is. All right, let's move it on to Down on the Farm. So for this week, my hitter is going to be Joshua Baez. It was going to be Jacob Gonzalez, and then he got called up. So we're going to go with Joshua Baez instead. Joshua Baez plays for the Memphis Redbirds, the AAA affiliate of course, the St. Louis Cardinals. Last week in 6 games, 29 at-bats. We've got 10 hits, 2 triples, 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 2 walks to 6 strikeouts, slash line of 345, 406, and 1 and an OPS of 1.406. Pretty damn good week, Joe.
Yeah, hard to argue.
And then our pitcher this week, we're going to go with Brody Hopkins. Brody plays for one of my favorite minor league teams, the Durham Bulls, the AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. Brody only made 1 start last week. He went 5 innings. He pitched damn near perfect baseball in that 5 innings. Didn't allow a hit, only allowed 1 walk, struck out 9. Did pick up the win. A whip of 0.2 and an average against of 0. Man, I wish I could pitch that well. All right, moving it into the hot week. I'm going to go full homer here because of who you're picking for Moneyball, because those were, I think, the 2 best hitters of the week last week. So I'm going to go with Acuna. 21 at-bats, 5 runs scored, 5 homers, 10 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, average of 333, OBP of 517, and a slug of 1.048, 7 hits, 8 walks, 6 strikeouts, which I know is something you always love to see as well. All right, who's Moneyball for you this week, Joe?
It's going to be Brian Reynolds from the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
A slash line of 526, 630, slug of 1053. 8 runs on 10 hits, 4 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 6 walks, 2 strikeouts.
Yeah, it's a good week. It's a really good week.
Week.
I'm going to throw one more guy up there too, staying in the NL East, James Woods of the Nationals. And 23 at bats. He had a 435, 536, 870 slash line, 7 runs, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 10 hits, a double, 5 walks, 6 strikeouts. Also a very good week for Mr. Woods. All right, moving it on to the pitchers. I have to. Mizrowski, 2-0 in 14 innings, 20 strikeouts, 1 earned run, 5 hits, and a walk. ERA of 0.64, a whip of 0.43. You can't not. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. All right, Joe, who's the adulting reliever of the week?
So same team, different pitcher, Trevor McGill for the Brewers. 4 appearances this week, 3 for 3 in save opportunities. 4 innings, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts, a whip of 0.50, a batting average against of 143.
Yeah, I can't argue with that too much. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
All right. I think my hot team of the week, Joe, I think I'm going to go with Seattle on that 6-game heater and starting to pull away the AL West.
Yeah, I think to me the White Sox having that 5-game winning streak, 7-3 in their last 10, being that game out of the division and 3.5 to the positive in the wild card. They're on a roll. The Orioles kind of finding a way back, being 7-3 in their last 10. It being in a bit of a good position there.
Yeah, no arguments. All right, that's going to be it for us this week. We will be back on next week. Hopefully Jason will be back. Hopefully I can get these StreamYard issues figured out so he can be back. Audio recordings are available on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. We're live on YouTube as well as Facebook. Merchandise is at redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by Baron Barbershop in Manheim. May your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. We'll see you next week.